All right, shalom, 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 my brother.
What's up, bro?
Yeah. You doing all right over there?
Oh yes, sir. Doing the
Yeah,
best. Doing the
yeah.
best.
Oh yeah. We are normally we in two different locations. You are in the millionaire area, and I'm down here in the other area of places, and no, we in two different places, and I so grateful that you take out time to slide in. Most times, you are coming right off of the labor force, right
Yes,
into this.
sir.
Yeah, you coming right into the labor force, and then you sliding right in. So I appreciate that. And most times, no matter what, it always you think you're ready, and then before things, come about, then it's a whole different situation. So we just trying to do our best. Is that right? Do our best.
Yes,
Hallelujah. But I
sir. Yes,
always,
sir.
I kind of look forward to it, and then you say, you look back, and it's just with anything that you might enjoy. You try to look back and you say, I'm so glad that today is the day that I can get encouraged. Something that has been on my mind, something that really had set in my heart, even on the Shabbat. Of course, we had our Torah portion that was going through that, and I think kind of something jumped on me. I guess no. let me stop. They say, but something was really brought up, and first of all, just to get a shout out to brother Anthony and his success, and it's good to see that, and
Praise Yah.
the Father continue to give him another addition. And as we count, we count those things. It's just like we counting the Omer. Is that right? And so there's some counting that's going on, and that's how we keep up with the where we at. Is that right? It kind of helps where we at. It be if you ask me, well, how old are you, and I just say, oh, I don't know, it's zero, I think. That that would cause a problem, wouldn't it? And somehow I didn't keep up with it.
Yes.
Whatever culture you may be in, some start at zero, some start at one. So we have all those things in about in that. So so grateful to him and the Most High, and I it's good. It's just good. I am so grateful to the Most High. I tell you, thanking Him for all of the things that He is doing and that He will do on that on a continual basis. And let me switch back over here if I can. All right. Because everybody is in the room. There's Anthony anyway. Okay, yeah. Thank the whole family. Hallelujah. It's always a good thing in that. So appreciate everyone that's in the room, and grateful for that. We in getting into right that springtime, running right into summer again, and we had some good rain on, and so I'm grateful for the things that the Father will do and will He continue to do in our lives, and that's always good in that. So, but we have one counseled out the other. Now, it could be so many ways. So much have been on my heart in that is because I quickly uh, took a tour through my own life, and that's where everything always usually start at, and that's where we should start at. That's a good base for us to start and all that. I took it through my own life, and to get the concept. The concept of that is, what is it that I can counsel out now? There's several roads that I can go to in that, and so maybe somehow that we can develop just something that can build us up, or something that we can look at and kind of challenge us in our own life. And I think that will be important in that. Uh, when we're thinking about counseling something out, that sometimes I think about the good qualities that we was doing, and I think my brother, I was talking to you, your wife, sort of on this same thing, is all of the good sometimes that we do, and it can counsel out when we would say we do something bad or something opposite, or all of those things. And that's when it's so important that we continue to do the right thing and to establish the right thing. And it's just in relationship, you know. And even in relationships, sometimes when you're thinking about counseling out, uh, if you have a relationship with others, or well as your husband and wife, or however that goes, you can build those qualities together, and that's part of it. And I think a lot of times it's not intentionally done. I think most times it's not, but it's easy for us to remember. We'll say the bad thing or the negative things, if you allow me to say the negative things that goes on too. And I don't know, and I'm sure that it'd be something that you could think on, even through the night or on the rest of the week. Is why do we remember? We'll say the bad things, right? And when I say bad things, I'm talking about those things that go against Torah, or those things that could not walking out, not being an example of the things of the Father, you know, and all of that thing that we need. One of the things, let me bring this up, is in Leviticus 18, it says, do my right rulings and guard my laws. And then it says something powerful in the sense that to walk in them, right? So I am Yahweh, your Elohim. So that's something that we need to do, is to walk in them. And that was another thing that we were studying, and we was in Leviticus. Vikra, let me see here. And it was talking about the mixing. Now, we kind of pulling this out in the sense of, if you're reading this, is my thought process is counseling out, and I think it was shared in our discussion, and it's something that I looked at and I said, it's easily done, and I see it done, and then even in my own life, I done some things like that. You say good things, but yet you counsel it out, in that. And then he was saying, God, I think you can say, yeah, guard my laws and do not let the livestock mate with another kind. Do not sow your seeds with mixed seed, and do not put a garment. And that's the portion that I was looking at, and that was expounded on, that really stuck in my heart. Garment woven with two sorts of thread upon you. And so the one of the things that was on the table, and not everything, but one of the things on the table that stuck with me is one can cancel out the other one, when we start talking about materials and all of those things. And a lot of times when we talk about different things, I look to the strength of those that might already know. If you're talking about farming, I'm not a farmer, so somebody that's a farmer could really explain to you about seeds, and somebody that make clothing can tell you about those things. And that's a good thing. It's always a good thing in that. So the ideal of counseling out. So because of this, if we're thinking about relationships, people will bring to the relationship something that's unique in that. Now, I want to just take just a short detour, and then I'm gonna let you come in, my brother. We may not be as long, but the detour is when I do something and then I counsel it out. So sometimes we can give somebody a compliment, and then in the process of complimenting them, we may say something on the negative side that just canceled out all of the things that I might have said. In that, in a positive way. And then in the same discussion or the same sentence, same paragraph, I come back and I delete by what I have said in the other, in that, or my actions. A lot of times I want us to think about our actions when we're talking about walking those things out. So when I can counsel something, one thing I could say, oh, just using something off the top of my head, say that's a nice car. That really is a nice car. When did you get that? And then somebody, oh, I just got this today. I said, oh, that's really nice. But that sure is an ugly color. So we have a tendency so what the person will remember is just, oh, now you never did talk about the nice car. But sometimes, and when we doing that, we counsel things out. So sometimes we'll say something, and then our actions, this is where I want us to get. Our actions cancel out what we said. And sometimes in the word of the word of Yah, we cancel out by our actions. And that's what I know. We can all say, the good qualities. We can say, keep his guard his laws. But my actions cancel out what I just said. Now that is very something that we need to focus on as you begin to grow in the things of the Father, right? Your actions can cancel out what you say. I heard what you said, and most of the times, my brother, is people will say things that are profound. I mean, they can really put it together. They could use words that would put me to shame, but your actions can cancel those things out. And that's exactly what happens, in that. Or you do not follow through on what you say. You do not follow through what you say, then your actions will be different from that. So we all now have strength and weaknesses. We all have that. And then you're dealing with sometimes in relationship, you can balance those things out. You could be a little strong in this area, and I could be a little strong in that area. And most times you're not too weak in the same areas. And then that could happen. But really what's dynamic about it all is when I'm weak in one area and you strong in another. And then you strong in one other, and maybe, I'm weak in another. And so it can benefit, because what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on the strengths of that, and not so much of the weaknesses, because our weaknesses can be comparable to one another, or the strength can be the same to one another. We can have those different strengths in that. And so when we have those things, we understand that would lead to a successful uh, uh, relationship, a respectful walk in the things of the Father. And so once He tells us, then we say, all that you tell us. Then He said, then we say we would do it. That's the whole purpose of this. Is once He tell us something, then we follow through and then we do it. And so we have different types. And many times this is where we get caught at in this is we have different personalities, if you want to say that, for that person and what they have. And then the types of opinions that we have. And I'm not going to rehash that. I think and we've been doing some of those things in the power up over time, but yet it is very, very vital when you're thinking about counseling things out that's in your life. And so I cannot say to my wife, I can say, I love you, but then I will take my fist and then begin to do things that is not appropriate, as maybe hitting on her or something like that. Well, I just counseled out my love for you. I know some people think that's love, right? But we won't go spend too much time on that. But what I just did, the love of our scriptures, the love and the character of the Father, that's not love. Something's not going on there. So sometimes we cancel out the things that we do. And many times we say we love you, but we cancel those things out by our actions. And sometimes it makes us confused. We don't know what's going on, because I have learned as I begin to grow is I'm looking at, I hear you, and I'm not doubting the person, and that's what we shouldn't do. You hear them, you don't doubt the person, but I hear what you said, but it needs to follow up by your actions of what you do, because your actions is the real you. And so those actions are there, whether you can, you can refine those actions, or they could be good actions and all that. The things that you do can be good. And so the Father had gave instructions what not to do, right? And don't sew those garments together. And it's a purpose for that. And He left that purpose there. And we have discovered sometimes through things that we have to searched out, or how we what I want to say, discovered different things, and we apply those linen that they counsel one another out. It could be a different thing when you're talking about the warmth or the clothing, or do they keep it warm? Do one sweat? Do they? Well, and all of those things will be there, right? And so using that same thing, let me see, I wanted to using that same thing, and in those situations about counseling out, it is very it is very something. It should be a focus point for us. That's what I want to say. It should be a focus point for us to make sure that I follow what I say, right? And if I say I'm going to do something, then that's what I need to do. I need to follow through with that. Of course, all things being equal. My brother, I'm not going to go on. I know I have a tendency to go, but at this point in that, I want to just make sure that are we tracking, because I got a lot on my mind. And it's not too much up there, so I might have took up all the capacity. Sometimes we have computers. I think I might have took up all the capacity of that. But maybe you can help refine those things and can launch into some questions that will trigger something in me there.
Hello, yes, sir.
Yes.
Well, from my estimation, all lights are green. System is a go. We, you know, in my professional or unprofessional opinion, I believe everything is lining up. There's just so much that you said already. I like what you said about combining the strengths and weaknesses, and what you said about the compliment. Oh man, that hit home.
Me too, my brother. Yes, I think that's what it does. Yes.
That is that is interesting how we can do that. Be like, oh, like you just said, it's just like, you look so good today, but your breath stinks.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever we end up doing.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah.
That is funny because it is how the other person interprets it. Because we may have like pure intentions when we say it, but then we don't realize that what we do, the way it's connected, may not it may not make us look so straight. Um, I'm really interested to see if you had anywhere else to go with Leviticus 18, because I think what you were saying really was lining home, especially when you said it's about our actions.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were saying about how our actions, um, the way I took notes off of what you said, it's like they reveal something. So I'm looking at your our actions reveal our hearts, and I think sometime that we're thinking our words do.
Mm-hmm.
you
Right,
know,
right, absolutely.
so there's this disconnect between our heart and our hand, and we interpret those things differently. And I was thinking, like what you brought up in Leviticus, I think would help, at least the way I was seeing it when you said these right rulings. And it's like, well, if we live by them, we do them, so that can't be misinterpreted. But I don't know if that was just like a launch point that you had there. But everything else that you said is definitely lining up. I'm excited. I'm buckled up.
Yes, yes. The seatbelt sign is on. So, but like you was saying earlier, is I think as I look, like you said, at my life, and I said, how often have I done that
Mm-hmm.
without even really realizing it, you know? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what it somehow, and that's what I'm saying that when you're thinking about the thing of being powered up moment is it's always been there. It's just that when it's said or what time it's said or what situation something is said in really makes the difference, really makes the
Mm-hmm.
difference. And so I begin to look at it. I said, now how many times have I counseled out that what I wanted to do? Because we talk about building up. So that's part of it, right? This is part of this building up. So the focus is, if I'm building you up, I can't counsel out those things,
Yes.
in that. And that's something that I do not, want to, practice or continue to practice in that. The thing is about a habit is when you have did it often and then you going to break it, but I don't want you to break a habit. Now I want you to listen to what I'm about to say. Don't break the habit, destroy the habit. Because if you break it, then you can put it back together, right? So the concept is to destroy that, right? And so
Amen.
now we move into that when you're talking about counseling one out for the other. Now we're talking about our walk, right? We're talking about our walk. So the former way that I walked, I don't walk that way no more, right? And so I, by walking in the ruach or in the spirit, then I won't fulfill those desires of my flesh. So the only way that I can counsel that desires of the flesh out if I walk in the ruach or in the spirit, as they would say, right? So that's when I can take that same counsel out for the other in the sense of walking the things out for the Father. The problem is I don't know how to walk that out, or I don't have the understanding. Now here's something that I want to mention, and I'll mention again. And you must. I guess I put it out here and don't really have a, it's so much more to this, and please don't take this wrong. I do believe in the prayer because prayer changes those things, right? Uh, but this is what we need to understand is I can pray for a situation, but for instance, my brother, let's use this. If you pray for me, you can pray for me, but I have to change. Your prayer is not a some kind of powerful wand or anything like that. I still have to do something. So when I get the right understanding of what prayer is, I realize those things. So even though I pray, something still has to change. I think me and you was talking about it many times. The Messiah would say, your faith let it be unto you, right? And so I know I'm kind of opening up some different things, but sometimes we run to the prayer, and that if the person don't change, the prayer will be ineffective. It won't be effective. Especially you have to know what's going on in somebody's life. You have to know what's going on in somebody's life before we set a prayer. And then we need to look at our scriptures to see what prayer is about, right? And when to do it and when not to. And that's very, very important because what happens is you're going to counsel your prayer out. Number one, let me give you an example of this. If, brethren, if we have something against or no, not treating our wife right, unforgiveness, of course, with anybody, but our prayers would be hindered if we don't get it right. So, in other words, it's the same about counseling out. So you can say a prayer, but if you're not treating your wife right in the proper manner of what our scriptures have said, then they use the terminology of according to what translation you're looking at. Uh, it will hinder. Other words, it's not effective. So a righteous, and that is somebody that's walking out the things of the Torah, the righteous prayer, right? It availeth much, but it can be counseled out, right? And I'm not gonna go through because it would take a while, and maybe we'll readdress this again in the future on the prayer about prayer. Now, one of the things I want to mention in the Sabbath, I want to mention this when we come together on the Sabbath, is one of the things I was looking at, and I will echo. We've been talking about, of course, the fruit, right, of the ruach or the spirit, right. And so when we come together, though, one of the things I want to talk about is uh, the it's a more excellent way. All right. Now I know we've been doing the way that we've been doing, but it is a more excellent way. So sometimes what we see what prayer is in different areas of our life, it may not be what we've been doing or what we've been practicing. Because what'll happen is it'll counsel something else out. It'll counsel it out. And so we have to be aware of those things. It's important. And that's anything that we have in our walk. So Shaul, and I will bring this out. Shaul is talking about it's a more excellent way. So as we grow, we can see that it must be a more excellent way. And then the examples that we are put in there as well, a more excellent way. All right, my brother, I'm gonna let you get right back in here on what was said so far, and see if you can tap in, uh, and we'll go forward from there. So, did you have something on your heart there?
Yes, sir. There's much. Um, hmm. So when you're saying about the prayer, and I really enjoy what you said, that strikes a chord with me. Like it really does, because the prayer is necessary. It's vital. It's a key part of our foundation and the growth in our relationship. Because it involves belief. It's a matter of belief. Um, and like you were saying, even with what when you quoted the Messiah answered people by their belief, and most of those people also had actions that lined up with their belief. So when someone said in their heart, "If I just grab his tassel," they didn't, you know, stand on the outskirts of the crowd. No, they moved into it, and they took hold, and many other people, um, they did acts that aligned with these beliefs they had. And when you were saying that, that was something I wish I would have learned sooner, especially when you were talking about the fact that prayer could be um, less effective if I'm not in order. So if I'm
Mm-hmm.
dis if
Right.
I'm
Right.
if I'm in disarray, how am I? It's ultimately like we always use a lot of airplane analogies, but they work. But it says put your mask on first,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then you can help someone else. So
Mm-hmm.
the idea
Mm-hmm.
is with prayers, like you said, the prayer of the righteous accomplishes much. So that means I need to be in the right relationship. Then it'll make it to where my plea has a little bit more weight on it, or whatever my request is, if I say it that way, if that's fair. But I do believe, like what you were saying, is unfortunately, I think because of the persuasion
Mm-hmm.
that comes with the religious system, prayer sometimes it's almost synonymous with magic,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
really can't stand that. That really, and I mean, I can't stand it in the sense that it's deceptive, and it is almost as if people believe because I said these words instantly something is going to take place. And I love what you said, is that if I'm praying for someone to stop, let's just what's something less, they have a bad habit, if they don't want to stop that habit,
Right.
uh my prayer, what is it going to do?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not saying, it's not that it's wrong that I want the best for this person, but if they don't want the best for themselves, how how are we going to achieve this goal? I see the good in them that they don't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely see what you're saying in that sense. If I'm close to what you're saying, because that's something we often believe. We think that because I care, they're going to care, or in that sense, because that's
Mm-hmm.
ultimately we're petitioning the Most High to make them care about this thing or whatever it may be. So I definitely I have a lot of passion in that area, and I don't want to get carried away. But that's just at least what I got out of what you were saying, especially when you were saying that there is a more excellent way. So I really want to know what that what
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
point was.
Yeah. 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 Well, yeah. Well, if the Father say the same, you have to be there at the Sabbath. We all have to come together, right? And
You cliffhanger me.
yeah, I got you, didn't I? Yeah, and we all would be there. But when you talk about prayer, there are different ways, or I don't know what to say, styles of different prayers that they have. Now, what really floods us today is the things that goes on today may not be. It may, let's put it this way. When I say an excellent way, and I visit that again, is the fact that there are babes, if you want to say that, and they desire the sincere milk, right? And that is of the word. They desire that. So I think what happens is we see someone else do something and then we do it. Nothing wrong with that, meaning according to what it is. But there comes a time that we need to grow, right? We need to grow up because who we need to know, who are you praying to? Because who you're petitioning or who you're requesting from is who you're going to receive from, right? That's just a thing. So we have to know who we praying to, and then once we receive, who am I getting it from, right? And so many. Now, hear what I'm saying to you. So many is saying, I pray to God, right? And that can be very, very generic in that, everybody prays. And so you what does that really mean though? What does that really mean? Does that mean that my prayer is going to make you do something. If I say, and I'm going to do something simple here. If I say, I'm praying that my wife would cook me something to eat, you know. Now I can pray for a long time for that, but I need to ask her, right? I need to ask her. Would you cook me something to eat? I need to eat, in that. So the thing is, I need to communicate that to her because of our relationship, and so we have this relationship, and I need to communicate that to her, right? So the prayer that I do, maybe as a babe, I think that everything's a prayer. Everything's a prayer, and that would be okay. But I can pray for a long time without me telling her. So what is it that I'm really going for? Do I expect somehow that she will wake up and then she will have a connection in the fact that I need to cook my husband some food, in that, right? So that's what I'm talking about, right? So some things we need to do. And so some things is what category does it fall under? So when we say prayer, what category does it fall under? Do you pray about every little thing, And then I think we get confused about pray without ceasing and different things like that, And we grow up with pray about it, pray about it, pray about it. But what we needed was the word of Yah. What we needed was counseling, and what we needed was direction. And most of all, this is what we don't have. And we're going to get back to all of this. But the main thing I want to mention again is even when we come together, I want to mention that order is very, 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 very important, right? Because with order, then that is the character of the Father. He always had things in order. And it's very difficult for sometimes for us to follow the order that we need to. I know we say that, but our actions tell us differently of whatever it might be. And we desired for our children to fall in the order of our house as well, or fall in those orders. And when they don't know the proper order, then we will explain to them what it is, you know. And I think no parent, all things being normal, no parent goes in to bring about the order with the little ones or the children and want to do damage to them. But sometimes when you give the children order, it's not always accepted in the proper manner. Meaning, just the simplest form, right? The meaning to this is clean up your room. That why? Because you want to bring order to that room. Sometimes it's not accepted like that. It's not accepted like, okay, this is what I need to do. Sure. Oh, I don't want to, maybe they were doing something. I don't want to stop playing in the backyard and all of this. Now you're grumping and boom, 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 and boom. So the parent is trying to bring about order. Nobody wants order. They want to freelance. So when you freelance, then you counseling out order. You can't freelance and have order at the same time, or you can't have order and freelance every now and then. And the same thing with marriage. You are in a covenant, so you can't be married Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right? But Friday I'm not married. It it don't work like that. So that's what you need. That's when you bring about the order. Even come Friday, if I forget I'm married, I need to remember, right? I need to remember. And so that's what the order is. The order is something that can be consistent, right? The order is consistent. We the one to get out of order. Sometimes we have obedience and say disobedience. And I'm just using order in this sense because we need that. We need that. So the Father has order in that. Whether we understand the order or not, well, we trying to get there. But he does have the order. And so the order that he has, and that's what we want to operate in. And this is where we're trying to get to as the people of the Most High, is the order that we need. to get back in order, and that could be difficult, but we can do it. It's difficult but yet simple. If that makes any sense. It only gets difficult many times, I say, once man gets into it. So the order that we need in that. So my brother, can you respond on anything on that? I wanted to get you in quicker this week.
All is well.
Uh huh.
I mean, I'm learning as well. Oh man, you done hit the explode button on this one. But when you said that about order, that I think is that's the key. We always talk about, Yah, his ruach hovered over the waters, and the waters
Mm-hmm.
were in, let's just say an order of chaos. People would use that word chaos there. And then when he began to work, he set things in order. And then of course he set us in order for a minute, but then we stepped out of line. And it seems like we've been doing that ever since. But when you said that, I definitely believe, even when we think about prayer, I love what you said, that, in the sense of, with your maturity in the Father, there will be clarity. There's going to be certain
Yes.
levels of clarity,
Yes. Good.
and there were certain things that I've been learning, for a hot minute from what you've been teaching, that as a babe, your zeal and your passion may cause you to act before you think. And
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of times I've been there, and I can still slip into it. It's very easy, just because
Oh yeah. Yeah.
passion can move you. It can move you. And when we're talking in an orderly place, passion can't rule over order. And I think sometimes, if we bring in that prayer element, we're completely enthralled with the desire to reach the good, but we're not using wisdom to come to that conclusion. We're getting there in an emotional place. Um, and when you were saying that about how necessary the order is, especially when we're in an environment that is built on order. When we think about Abba's instructions concerning his house, there's a place to wash your feet. There's a
Yes.
place to
Yes.
burn the incense. There's a place to light the lamps. So that's right. I mean, we even have specific instructions, says don't pour a drink offering on the incense altar. That's a bad
Yes.
idea.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Go pour that somewhere else. There's a
Mm-hmm.
special place for that. So I think when the Most High is giving us instruction and how necessary it is to let others see you in order. I believe Shaul himself got instruction from James or Yaakov on that. He was told, go up to the temple to prove that you walk orderly,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
he had some
Beautiful.
men to take with
Yes.
him to complete a vow, because
Mm-hmm.
people thought he was out of order because he was teaching to meat. And it's still today, people can't eat it. But he was teaching some really thick stuff, and people took him out of context. They didn't consider the source. He in his own words will say who he is and what he believes and how he walks. But if we misinterpret him, it's going to cause chaos. And I believe the same thing will happen, like you were saying, in an environment, even in an assembly environment. If we decide to let our disorderly opinion, rule us, it's going to cause chaos. And unfortunately, disorder sometimes is synonymous with disobedience, and that can get you in trouble. So when I was listening to what you had to say there, I got so many thoughts here. There's so much. It's like you open the pantry, and I'm getting to stare at all the snacks. But there's a lot of potential in what you were saying, especially in just that small point that I picked up on what you were saying. So I believe, like you said, if we want to stop the freelance, we're gonna have to find out first. First, we're gonna have to accept that we're out of order, um, and I think that's a humbling thing.
Mm-hmm.
To come to
Mm-hmm.
terms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the idea for me is, we all heard this good news, but we were out in the field when we heard it. Most, all things being equal or normal, Yah would then bring us to someone who can teach us this good news. So I'm thinking about, the idea of somebody, wild being brought into the stable, and typically, you got to learn order once you come inside, because it's not the same as being in the field. And that's just my mentality behind it. That's just how I think. It may be weird, but the idea for me is like, I think with this disorder, or this idea of getting out of the freelance mindset, I have to learn how to conduct myself in this house, the order of the house, the way of the house, and then that will teach me, how my faith or my belief or my passion will no longer be canceled out by my disorderly behavior,
Hmm.
because I've learned how to appropriately enact these things that I believe in. And there's a time to, for everything.
Right,
So,
right.
ultimately we'll learn how to carry out these things to which we see or feel or are led by, um, at its appropriate time. And it takes maturity, I think, to get to a point to where you can be effective with your belief.
Absolutely.
You know,
And I didn't want to
I'm
cut you
done.
off. Yes, yes. I didn't want to cut you off. I was doing my note taking, and I would take the last what you said, but time. It's the time for that, right? It's the right time, the right order. And you brought out from the beginning, Bereshit, Genesis, right? There has always been order in that, you know. So when we saying the order, we saying we lining up number one with the things of we lining up with Torah, you know. So this is where we get our principles from, you know. uh Literally you cannot, put these two together. I think we was talking about wool and linen. You can't put them together. uh and it's a reason for that. So that's the order. Even though you put them together, that's the order of it, you know. And so I want us, I think we could grow even more if when we discover the order that we need. Because when you freelance and then you get an order, even though you have an order, it may not be the proper order that you have. Because you say, "Oh, I'm in order," but is it the proper order? And when it's the proper order, then those principles will line up with Torah, right? That's where your principles are at, and this is where we come at when we thinking about that. And you mentioned also think before you act. So we have to think about what we are going to do in that. So even if you want to say maturity wise, sometimes we don't always think about it because we think that we have to answer right away. It's like I got to let you know this right away. But it's not. We have to practice this. It's like many times I say no. Practice. Well, we use the terminology. Let me think about that. Let me think on that. Let me get back with you, right? In that. And so what that does is the person that you're talking to, it helps their patience, right? And because they want to answer right away. And then the person that won't answer right away sometimes feel like they don't have the ability to answer you right away. Well, maybe they don't know. If they gotta wait, they don't know. No, that's not always the case, and most times it's not majority of them a case. In that, there's many things that or I would know, and the people that are here with us in the room know. But I always like to rethink it, you know, because especially if it has something to do with you, and then if it's gonna affect, if what I say is gonna affect the way that you carry out something, it gets important to me. And so I'm always thinking about heavy and light. I'm always thinking about heavy and light. So some things are just light. I mean, yeah, I can answer you right away on that. But sometimes I may perceive that it's a little heavier. Okay, let me get some things together. There have been many times that I know, the portion of scriptures or whatever, but I like to readdress those in order to think about sometimes what I need to say or what I desire to say. And this is the thing about one counseling out the other. And this is what we don't want to do, you know. We've been the proper order. You have order, but is it the proper order, the things that follow out, you know? And that's what we need. And sometimes it can, I was thinking earlier that you can always, it's not, for instance, let me this I'm using examples. I'm just kind of pulling. If I visit I don't know, a neighborhood, right? If I visit a neighborhood and everybody, they was digging a hole, right? And they was using their hands to do this. So I'm trying to think of it on the spot. They was using their hands, right? Now, they could dig that hole and get that dirt out with their hands. Let's say that they had a shovel nearby, right? It just laying on the ground, but they was using their hands. Now, were they wrong for using their hands to dig that hole? Well, no, no, not at all. But then let's say that I just use me, since I'm having the story here. Say I came along and I seen the shovel and everybody was digging with their hands. And I said, well, why don't you use the shovel? Right? A more excellent way. What they was doing was fine and they would get the job done. But a more excellent way was use the shovel. You could get more dirt and you could line up, you could get it to where you want to get it. And it will, in a sense, be quicker according to who use it, you know. But nobody knows how to use it. So I would have to show them how to use the shovel. That's a more excellent way. They still could get it done, but it's a more excellent way if you had a shovel. You could get more dirt. Your hand is only so big, right? You can get more dirt. It's a more excellent way. So they shouldn't be upset because they didn't, you using the shovel, you know. You can't get upset about that. What you're doing is fine, but there's a more excellent way in digging up, removing this dirt to make the hole. Then I have to show you how to use it. Then they have to use it properly too. And then they have to, and then what happens to us though is when I want to use the shovel, I'm so used to using my hand, I go back to my hand because I don't want to take out time to learn, right? I don't want to take out time to learn. I think I got it. So I don't want to take out time to learn how to use this shovel. And sometimes the shovel could cause you to have, according to what it is, a little bit more strength because the more dirt you put on the end of that, then the heavier it could be. With your hands, you can only gather up so much at a time. You see what I'm saying? Now, one is not wrong of the other, but it's a more excellent way. And so there's a more excellent walk that we need to discover. And that's what's really been, like when you in something's in your heart. But in order for you to do that, even though you had the shovel laying there, you was using your hands. Somebody has to come along and show you that. And so say in my story that somehow they began to use the shovel and they was excited about using the shovel. Man, they were saying this is so much we can get things done and we can get more holes dig quicker and we can do those things. And we're saying they was going to plant something. Well, we can plant more quicker. And I think we go a lot of to that. What's easier or quicker may not be the best, but what's quicker, but it's a more excellent way. So sometimes in the things of the Father, we have prayer or prayers and we have an idea, but there's a more excellent way in our scriptures on how to approach those things, how to approach the king, how to do that, right? And so this is the way that it is, It said it's who, it's like who is really your Abba, who is your father, in that. Now, other children can approach me, but my child has access to me, right? They have an understanding of who I am because he lives with me, Say the child next door doesn't totally understand. They know of me, but they don't know me, in that. And so my son could tell you, oh, my dad won't do that. He's not gonna do that. But the guy or the young boy next door, he would say, Well, I'm gonna ask them. You can ask them, but he ain't gonna do that. He does not do that, right? And it's a more excellent way in that. And so, to a more excellent way is also we are say, well, you don't know what the Father will do. Well, you're right. I don't. But He gave me what He will do in His Word. He gave me his character. He gave me those things in his word. So until I can do something else, I'm going to follow the things that I have, right? So to narrow this down, we have to make sure that whatever option I have that is available to me that helps me to make a decision. So when we need to make decisions, we have to know what's available, how I'm being informed in those decision makings that I do. We make decisions every day. Okay, we make decisions every day. Some of those decisions are quickly, in that, and so we practice that every day. And you always take the decisions on the heavier or lighter matter, right? Some things you know that you have to do, you got to do it. But that's how we need to approach it. And then when we approach that, those difficulties that we face, once we are informed about those, then it limits, and we know the resources that we have that are available to us. Those are the things that we consider that will help us in our perspectives, right? It will help us in our growth. And then what it'll cause us to not to counsel the other out, but to have a balance. So we don't want to counsel nothing out. What we want to do is we want to get a balance. And once we have a balance, then we can make a good decision, right? It can be relevant, good decision, good information, right? Then we can do that, and that'll help us, from minimize the fact that what we are continue to counsel out. So in that, so there's a more excellent way. So when somebody brings the shovel to you, do not, do not get upset on that. They just showing you a more excellent way, right? They should want you to grow in that, in that. And then somebody will never take the shovel and use it. And you know what? That's okay. You still can use your hand. It's all right. You still can use your hand. But if you had using your hand and the person was using their shovel, they could dig that hole and go to the next step. So if they was planting seeds, they could dig that hole and then plant the seed and going on, and you still digging at the hole, So, just kind of take that and apply it to the things of the Father. In that is that we are always growing, and always walking, but you're always doing. And so a lot of times we are going back to prayers, we praying for stuff that you don't need in the sense of to pray for, right? You don't need to pray for whether you should drink water or not, right? Now, if you're a desert, you may want to pray to say, Father, help me to find the water spot, right? That I can replenish my body, if that's in the example in that. But if you sit there in the desert and don't move, you won't find the water. So I can pray about the water spot, and I can stand up and I can start going east, right? I need to start walking. And as I'm walking, and then maybe they'd be pressing on me to go another way, go east or go west in that. And then I can find that water spot. But if I just sit there, I can pray, I can sit there, I can pray, I can sit there some more and pray, but I never find the water spot. So this is what I'm saying about appropriate. There is prayers, and yes, the Father answers prayers, right? But do you know that that's something to be discovered in your own studies? Find out what He does and answer though. Sometimes He doesn't answer those things. In other words, He hears all, but will He answer you? Will you receive your answer? Many times in my life, I prayed about something and then I answered my own prayer. So I just talk about me. I had to answer my own prayer because as I study, I found out that I wasn't in the place where I should have been for him to answer it. Right? And so it's always a more excellent way, a more excellent way. All right, my brother, we coming up on that powerful hour mark, and so I'm gonna let you slide back in. Just don't fall. Just slide in, but don't fall down. Don't.
Yes, sir. I see the sign is still, stay seated. So, oh man, oh man, there's it's so heavy. I like what you were saying about weightier matters. I really believe that's the key. That is such a key, especially when we're trying to understand things. And I think at one point in time you were teaching and you brought out something of what Shaul said, and Shaul said something about knowledge puffs up, something like that. So it seems
Mm,
sometimes the things we know, um, we really don't have experience to back up that knowledge. So when I'm thinking about when you do come across someone who has experience, like you were saying, I can tell this is a little heavier than you think it is. So let me dig a little deeper, versus if I were to just run on that surface level understanding, I may miss the fullness of whatever it is. So there was so much you had said um in that statement, and I don't know, I just found it to be very true. There's a lot of things that we're we reveal what we don't know.
mm-hmm,
And I think at one point in time, one of the prophets was saying, you know, the one who boasts, let him boast that he knows and understands me, says the Father. So for me, it's all like you were saying, there's some things in the word. And when we act in a way that is um, contrary to what was written, our behavior proves what we know. And
mm-hmm.
like you're saying, so it may cancel out all the knowledge just because I have the wrong actions. And like you were talking about in that analogy of the hand shovel. If I read about the hand shovel and I continue using the hand shovel because I learned about it, it's a classic technique. But then someone comes along with a manufactured shovel. I may boast in the fact that I know this thing and overlook the good thing to which you brought to me. And that goes to show that I really don't know, what I should know. At least
Mm-hmm.
that's the way I'm understanding it. Um, because I've seen it that way in my life. Um, when the correction came or the greater understanding, what is greater came, um, it was hard for me to receive it because I was still running on what I knew before. I think the prof, what was it? Keefe even said something about that. Returning to what you once knew. So I'm saying that at least with what I was hearing from what you were saying, if I know the Father, then I'll do what the Father is saying. Because what child doesn't know his father, and we prove that we know him by how we behave and how we act. I mean, we have a commandment that says don't shame his name. That can be done through the way we act and the way we behave. And just behind everything what you're saying is it's pretty heavy. So I'm just listening, and I definitely understand what you were saying, and the point that you were saying, I believe came across very clear. And I see you put something up here right quick.
Oh
So let
yeah,
me
it
see.
wasn't. Hopefully, I didn't put it up to interrupt what you were saying. I just was working on it and putting it up while you was talking.
Mhm.
So I want make sure you get your thoughts out. And I do apologize because it wasn't for that in that,
Oh,
but
all
it
is all
yeah
is well.
yeah. But I just was it came this is some of the stuff that we as we walking taking our roads and taking our count up to the it says there's a whole lot, right? This just came to say that there is different kinds of gifts, right? but it's the same
Hmm.
spirit, you know. And everyone sometimes, uh, you know, there's the different kinds of service and how you do things, but it is always in a proper manner, right? So when he was saying it, when he was dealing with these gifts, and that he was saying that this is something that he said he don't want us to be ignorant of these things, right? I wish that you don't be ignorant of these things, and that's important because that's the reason for power up. That should be the reason that you have a shepherd, is because somebody needs to be concerned enough to realize to say that I don't want you to be ignorant of something that's going on, right? And so we know here, and I'm not going to get in all into this because I don't want to. Again, I want to keep it with the don't be counseling out different kind of workings, and then it says each one is given the manifestation, the spirit. Oh, excuse me. One is given the word of wisdom. All of them is given. See, it's given to them. But do you know that before you get this word of wisdom, there's a certain way that you need to walk? You see what I'm saying? Before these different kinds of workings, for the different kinds of service, who is he talking to? What is who? What is this? What is this? Is this just everybody? And then he said to another belief, we was talking about that other by the same spirit. So in other words, it's the same ruach, it's the same spirit, there's just different gifts in that. And then it even says the gifts of healing by the same spirit. So what do you think that is? See, some people would take this on tour. They think they're just supposed to go on tour. That's not what that's saying. Oh man. Oh man. Somebody that has a gift of healing would understand that a more excellent way. It's not some of the stuff that you seeing today. It's not that, in that. So if you have this word of knowledge, are you praying for that word of knowledge? Are you praying for that healing? Are so how do I know this? How do I know? See, these are the questions or the things you need to consider instead of just what we have been receiving. For as it says here, for as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of the one body, right? So we all being many, so it's being many, right? Are one body. So also is the Messiah, right? So that's what we have to realize is it's one body though. But this body has an order. Your body has an order. So it's not, when something get out of order, your body gonna let you know. Eat something that don't agree with you, it'll let you know. Your body is functioning in order, in that. The heart, you'll never find the heart in somebody's foot. It has an order, all things being equal is, if you have the things that you need, that they'll be there. It's an order. It's still an order, you know. Some may be born with 6 fingers or whatever, but you would have order. You would still have normally you would still have 5 fingers, and they wouldn't be on your forehead. There's an order. And so I can go on, and we won't belay that particular practice of going on and on. We're gonna let them out of the room, huh? In that, I was just kind of streaming down here to see if something else. Oh, listen, go back, those of you, and just look at 14. I mean 12 again, and you're gonna have to when you do this. People have to know that. See, it says many people are led away by this here. Can you see that on your screen, my brother?
No, sir, I
You
can't.
can't. Okay, you can't see that on the screen. Okay, led away. They've been led away to dumb idols.
By dumb idols, yes, sir.
Right, right, right. So we have to know. We have to know what is a dumb idol, and then he's talking to him. Okay, what is a dumb idol? And says even though you might be led, so it is possibility that we can be led by people that are being led by dumb idols. So if you being led by people or being led by dumb idols, what that make you, right? In that, so I can,
That's a good part.
yeah. So one don't cancel out the other, you know. So that's the thing. If you running after idols, dead idols, or if you running after other Elohims, right? Then you just can't come and just say, I'm gonna pray, because it cancel that out. Because first of all, we can't be after other Elohims. That's number one.
Yeah, it's like the Acts
Right. So
15.
you're not,
I'll
yeah,
probably
you're
be.
not getting nothing from the Father if you're going after other Elohims. Yes, he's doing what he needs to do. And yes, the orchestration of all that, how that happened, that's what he's doing, right? He's doing that. But those of us that are walking in the covenant, we need to understand that. We need to understand that we are set apart. So once we set apart, we don't do what the others do. We don't look like them. We don't smell like them. We don't do that, right? And so when we bring it out, when we come over, or if we growed up in it, then we still are always challenged with what they do, whoever that they are, right? Whatever they are, whoever, you understand. So it's very very important. But it be right, the ruach, or the spirit of Elohim, right? That's what we want. We want to be in His spirit, in that. All right, my brother. You have any final words? Cause I I could go on.
Yes, sir. I've been trying to hold back, but yes, sir. There has been a
Let me.
lot of good things you covered right there. That last point I really enjoyed. Um, it's kind of saying what to me what you were saying in a sense was you're a product of what you follow.
Mm-hmm.
So if you believe you're following in the way of righteousness, but yet there is no righteousness being done, your belief is being canceled out, you know, in that
Correct.
sense.
Beautiful. Uh huh.
You believe you've convinced yourself, and it's possible to convince yourself, like I've convinced myself,
I do it.
that
I done
I'm
did it.
doing something that'll bring about a good result, even though it can't. I'm like we use plants as an analogy often. Actually, Messiah, he had a better one. What's the point about putting a lamp, under something?
Yes. Exactly.
I think I'm doing this great thing, but yet no one else can see, you know. And then he would tell us where to put it instead. Or even when he was saying about the Pharisees, he's like, it was good that you were tithing these herbs,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
what about the loving commitment?
Mm-hmm.
You set aside, your tithing. It's almost like it's being, if those herbs, it would be canceled out by your lack of compassion.
Beautiful.
You know,
Beautiful. Yes.
you know, and then it also, the beauty of canceling out is it goes the other way as well. If I'm doing unrighteousness and I turn to do righteousness, my unrighteousness will be canceled out.
Canceled out. Hallelujah.
It'll
Hallelujah.
no
Good word.
longer be remembered.
Good
And that's the
word.
beauty of what the Most High has done for us. He's saying, our words need to be synonymous with our actions. So if I've learned righteousness and I do righteousness, that's awesome. But if I've learned wickedness and I've masqueraded it as righteousness, there is some canceling out that's going on there, you know. And I think I believe we have the opportunity to learn right rulings and do them. And I believe with the word and the instruction to which we've been given, that's what it'll be. It tells us to guard the Shabbat, not just think about it. So
Yes.
if we
Right.
if we guard it, if we watch over these things, those things will be it'll be congruent. They'll be straight. But if I say I'm guarding the Sabbath, but then I'm not actually setting it apart, I'm canceling out my personal observance of that commandment. I'm missing the mark, you know. So I think with all the what you have said, that's just the way I'm hearing it, and I believe it is very sound, and I don't want to think I'm doing the right thing and consider it right just because I've thought it and believe most of the time we have considered our belief in a thought place versus our umunah, faith. It should be in an action place, and so our actions are going to reveal what we really believe. And I think with what you've been going over tonight, it's a good place for us to start examining. Um, am I saying one thing and then doing another? You know, because I
Right,
might be
right.
canceling out what I said. You know, and that's just what this is saying to me. So I'd rather be one who, even if I found myself in that place of error, now that I've got the correction, turn so that the correction will be remembered instead of all the error.
Right. Brother, that was excellent. That was excellent. Like that. I'm gonna get like you one of these days. That is excellent. You did outstanding job. One of the things, and thank you for that excellent sort of wrapping up. And I'm sure those that are looking at this, we're looking at it and are here with us. They have put something in their heart, and they could jot down something that is different. One of these times, maybe I will teach again, or maybe I do something in power up. I will say something about prayer again. Let me give you this idea as we close. That over the years, I'm listening to what people are saying, you know, and I always didn't do that. And so as the gift has developed, because with all my heart I do believe I'm an under shepherd, and I don't feel shamed about that. Not this stuff that you might see out there. I'm gonna give you an example. That way it won't affect anyone or anything like this. We have to grow sometimes. When I talk to somebody and I ask them, for instance, I would say, and this I'm a dress it up. It could be once you hear it, it could be more than that. It says, if I ask somebody, "Were you coming over tomorrow?" and their statement is, "Oh, I don't know. Let me pray about it." You just told me your maturity level. You don't have to pray about whether you're coming over my house or not. You need to let me know if you're coming or not, because I can be ready to receive or whatever we had an agreement. What happens to us, I understand what the person is saying, right? But sometimes when we use words so much loosely, they become a part of us. And so that's something that it should be a religious thing to say. Let me pray about it, you know. When that really is not the word we should put in that blank, you know. You can know whether you could say, "Oh, okay, let me check my schedule and see if I can come by. Let me see what I don't know what my wife may be doing, and I could come by. Let me see other things." So sometimes they would say that, and I'm looking for more, but I guess they have to pray about it, and then I give you a call. So sometimes we want to seem to be, I'm going to use the word, so spiritual, and then we just dumb. We just do dumb things. And not only that, but here's a surprise for you. There was a time in my life I would be just like that. A time in my life that would be me. Let me pray about it. Well, I don't need to be praying about it, right? But I had to grow. But there are people still today that still use that, you know. And so a lot of things that we have uh, developed or that we have attached ourselves to, we're going to have to learn how to let it go, because there is a more excellent way. and in that, and so that's been on my heart. I could have put that in there, and like you were saying, there's so much that can cancel out. If we looking at a particular title, so many things that could have been said. But I hope somewhere along this line that we have received and thought about those things. And you know what, my brother, if I find myself in that area, one of the things that I do is I want to do something about it. That's what's important. I want to do something about it. I know I've been using my hand, and that's what I was saying about. I'm talking about the physical hand, not so much of a hand shovel. I'm using my hands, and then somebody introduced a shovel to me, right? You know, so I always want to, in the sense we use the terminology now, to upgrade. Why wouldn't I use the shovel? You know, but I'm not going to get upset because I was using my hands. And so I reiterate that again because when someone really cares about you, they just want you to upgrade. That's all. They just want you to upgrade. When they care about you, they just want you to upgrade. That's all. And we in our day and time, I'm using that terminology because we are familiar with it. We always get upgrade. You get an update. I tell my wife, "Oh, you got an update on your phone," and she'll tell me we got an update, and then we update it, and it's updated for a reason. Not one time did I get mad at Apple or get mad at my phone because it was an update. Why would I get upset when I can always? It's a more excellent way, and that's what we were looking for is a more excellent way. Okay, I was right here, but there's a more excellent way, and guess what? There's gonna be more than that. Then you could go from the shovel and then you could have a electric shovel, or you could go from there. You could, have a backhoe. There's so many elevations that you can go. We should always want to embrace something even the more in the fact that it's a more excellent way. All right, my brother, those that's in the room, they're still with us. Hopefully, in that, we're going to get ready to end this particular session. Want to thank you again. Thank the whole
Thank you.
family and those. There's
Appreciate
a
it.
lot that kind of sometimes look at the power ups, and I may not know them all. And then maybe one time, maybe we'll have something that we'll have a situation where we could be able to maybe put everybody on Zoom sometime that know about us, and they call what they call the scribers, and get to know them one on one. That'd be a good thing, wouldn't it? And
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
just to say hello. So maybe we'll do something like that in the future, and I'll be glad to see. It'd be good to see some more faces, wouldn't it? In that, so maybe coming in the future in that, and may we continue. Now we can pray for one another. Is that right? Because our scriptures told us to do that. So we can pray
Oh
for
yeah.
one another, but 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 that's what we want to continue to do because that's what we was commanded to do. Is that right? In that. So remember those things and know that the Father hears all things. And please, just what was said, just take it and start using that shovel, huh? Start using that shovel. All right, brothers. Shalom, shalom.